Hello and welcome to another midweek message. The time is 7:30 a.m. of course, 13 degrees centigrade, 55 Fahrenheit, 83% humidity, and the barometer is saying 1007 millibars. I bought a little handheld electronic barometer and that says 1007.7. So that's pretty accurate, that's all making sense. The flag, there's a bit of actually there's quite a wind from the west. Cherry tree has still got quite a few leaves on it. Bob, over there in America, we were talking about gas pokers, weren't we, the other day? And Bob sent me a couple of photos. Nice photos, thanks Bob. Basically an iron pipe in the grate under where you have the fire. Iron pipe full of holes, and it's a permanent fixture, which is good. Our pokers here, you sort of light it and then stick it into the coal, whereas Bob's is much safer, much better. Thanks for that, Bob, and thanks to everyone who sent me emails saying, I had a gas poker, I remember a gas poker when I was young. And also Phyllis, hello Phyllis, used to have a chemistry set with a Bunsen burner, and she did the same as I did back in those happy days. Light the Bunsen burner and melt glass rods by the fire. I don't know. It's a learning curve, as they say. It's a dreadful expression, isn't it? But it was a learning curve. Discovering things like that, melting glass. How many kids these days melt glass? Actually, thinking about it, it's probably just as well that they don't. Of course, back in the old days, we didn't have health and safety. You'd never be allowed to purchase a gas poker with a rubber hose on it these days that you stick in your fire. It just wouldn't happen, would it? If it fell out of the fire for whatever reason, no one's in the room, it falls out of the fire, possibly into the hearth or onto the carpet, then that's it, you've got a major fire. So I can understand health and safety in a lot of respects, but honestly, some of it is just ridiculous. But we won't go down that road because it's boring. Ray, nice to hear from you. Ray used to work at a car park. My granddad was a car park attendant. I'll tell you about that later. Excuses for people, you buy your ticket. This is before the days of technology and pay on your phone and all this nonsense. I can't do all that. This is when you had a chap there and you would go to pay him and he'd give you your ticket for your car. Because if you overstayed your time, for example, a couple of hours and you got back 2.5 hours or 3 hours, then you'd get a ticket. Ray would issue a ticket. And some of the excuses here, I just read out a couple. I couldn't get back to my car in time because I have cystitis and I got stuck in a toilet in the town centre. So what do you want me to do? Cancel your ticket? Why have you put a ticket on my car when I told you beforehand I was probably going to be an hour or so later back to it? Well, you have to pay, don't you? You can't say, oh, look, I might be late. If you're going to be late, buy a 3-hour ticket. This is what we do, especially on the Isle of Wight. We go all around the island on our holiday. Wherever we park in a car park, it says, how long are you going to be here? Is it 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours? We always go over, just in case. You never know, we might be delayed, we might be held up for some reason. Ray's listed a lot more, but I shall read those out as the weeks go by, 1 or 2 each week or something. My grandfather, when he retired, he was a car park attendant. He had a white sort of lab coat and a peaked cap with a white thing on it and a badge and all. I think he worked for the council. Yes, he did. And he'd take money from people and give them a ticket and all this stuff. And he'd sit in his little wooden hut. But he went a bit over the top. He would say to people, I'll look after your car while you're away. That was fair enough. He'd keep an eye on a car. And sometimes, if the owner had got a posh car, they'd give him a tip, which of course was his money. He put that in his pocket. But what he also did, which was not a good idea, someone would come into the car park and he'd say, I'll park your car for you. Off you go. There's your ticket. I'll park the car for you. And some of them thought, well, that's a good service. Right, thanks very much. See you later. And off they went. And he'd park their car. Now, that wasn't part of his job. If for a start, he wasn't insured to drive other people's cars. It wasn't part of the job at all. And what happened was he parked someone's rather nice car. I don't know what car it was. And he dented it. Now, bear in mind, he was in his, 60s, late 60s, I suppose. He hadn't driven a car since the 40s. That was the last time he drove a car. He used to go around on a bike around the village where he lived. I've said before, haven't I, he was balmy. He was totally eccentric. So he's parking people's cars or those that would let him. I mean, I wouldn't let a chap park mine. I'd say, no, I'll park it, that's fine. Anyway, there was some trouble because there was another car that he parked and something happened to that. So people got on to the council. And I don't know whether he retired or got the sack, probably the latter. He should never have done anything like that, driving other people's cars. To be honest, the people that let him drive their car, I mean, they must have been pretty mad to do that in the first place. Would you let some old bloke drive your car? You go into just a council car park, you park it yourself. Anyway, thanks for that, Ray. You've given me quite a list there. So I shall read 1 or 2 out each week. Do you remember last Sunday I did one of our quiz things, Where Am I? And I played some sounds. First of all, what was this sound? Any idea what that is? I've not heard from anyone. Milking a cow. That's what it is, milking a cow into a bucket. No, it wasn't me milking the cow. I wouldn't do it. I don't like the idea of that somehow. I've got a 3-legged stool in the garden. I don't know where we got it from. It's a lovely 3-legged or 3-legged milking stool. I don't know where it came from. We haven't got a cow though. I've got a bucket. Then I followed that with some animal sounds. I was at a farm. Several of you got it right. There was Janice. Hello, Janice. Nice to hear from you. You're an old listener, aren't you? Janice, Alan, Dave and Simon got it right. I was on a farm. It was pretty obvious, wasn't it? I would imagine that's why most of you didn't bother to contact me. It was obvious where I was, on a farm. But no one got the milking business with the cow. No one knew what that was. Oh, someone suggested I was cleaning windows. Who was that? Brian. He said, were you cleaning windows? No, I don't think so, Brian. I might do another Where Am I next Sunday, possibly, but not now. So what have you been up to? Anything exciting? Ray's Rants at protonmail.com. Oh, before I forget, thanks to everyone who contacted me about Swanbourne Lake in Arundel. North Carolina Sun, thanks for the info. Mac, thank you. Thanks to Dave, Julie, and who was Andrea, thank you. Thanks to everyone. Swanbourne Lake is not a natural lake. A mill pond existed here by the time of the Doomsday Survey. It powered a water mill, recorded in 1066. Stone the crows. The present lake was enlarged in the late 18th century. I won't go on and on. It's all very interesting. Oh, here we are. Wartime plane crash. 13th of August, 1940. A Junkers Ju-88 was damaged by hurricanes from Tangmere. That's a little Tangmere airport up the road. It came down at the west side of the lake and ended up at the far end. 2 crew became prisoners of war and 2 died. Parts of the aircraft were visible when the lake dried in 1989. One of the diffused bombs is displayed at Arundel Castle. There we are. There's a lot more about it, but I mentioned the tea house, didn't I? The tea house looks like a very old building. It's a Tudor Gothic estate lodge built in 1845. It's a Grade 2 listed building, a park lodge, not a turnpike toll house. Okay, it's a park lodge. It was built for use on the estate and likely had resident staff. There's no evidence that it ever functioned as a toll house, so there we are. There was an old mill there which was demolished in 1844. So all this information is around. I just couldn't find it. Perhaps I didn't look properly, I don't know. I must have man-looked, as Tricia calls it, when I go to the fridge and say, well, there is no butter. And she says, well, what's that there? Okay, well, it wasn't there just now. She must have just put it there. Just going back to my grandfather when he became a car park attendant. He did that because he was bored. He retired and apparently he was bored. Probably wanted to get away from his wife. She was as balmy as he was. That's why he did it. That's a bit odd, isn't it? I was talking about radio stations last week. I said they're all rubbish. Oh, last Sunday rather, didn't I? I said they're all rubbish. Several of you agree. In fact, I've got a list. I'm not going to read everyone out, but I've got a list. Everyone says they're rubbish. They are rubbish. They all sound the same. Anyway, won't go into that. And the first TV. Do you remember I said to you, when did you get your first TV? Well, this is back to Janice again. Hello, Janice, again. She says, we got our first TV in 1960. And Janice was 12 years old. Yeah, 12 years old in 1960. What about your first telephone? We got our first telephone. Stone the crows. How old was I? I remember it well. We lived in the new bungalow. I must have been I think I was 10, so about 61, we'll say 1960. When did you get your first telephone? Raise rants at protonmail.com. Of course, these days people are getting rid of their landline phones. The question should be, when did you get rid of your telephone? Not when did you first have one, or both. When did you get rid of yours? We've still got ours. I want it to go, but Tricia wants it to stay, so I'm in charge. So I've allowed her to keep it. I shall see you next Sunday, will I? Yes, I will, with the hour-long episode. Be good. If you're bad, don't get caught. Look after yourselves. Hope the weather's nice where you are. It's raining here now. We had sunshine just now. Now it's raining. Just can't keep up with it. Thanks for listening as always. Enjoyed your company immensely. Bye-bye for now.